Yeah, now! It's time, Michael.
I think it's safe to say, at the end of Halloween 2, Michael Myers was dead. Sure, knowing what we know now, Michael could easily survive a hellfire as punishing as this, but remember, this was 1981. Michael Myers wasn't the guy he is today. In the previous film, he survived a few things the average Joe couldn't, but regardless, by the end of Michael's second outing, he was deader than a doornail. At least to creator John Carpenter. By the time Halloween 2 had wrapped production, John Carpenter had grown tired of the Michael Myers storyline, believing that it had run its course. So when offered the opportunity to return to the Halloween franchise, John agreed on the condition that the next film in the franchise, as opposed to being another Michael Myers story, would instead be a brand new story, wanting to reshape the franchise into an anthology series. The product that would come from this ballsy creative risk would of course be Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, released in 1982. Sadly, John Carpenter's coke-fueled vision of mask makers using a piece of Stonehenge to melt children's heads into bugs and snakes using Halloween masks didn't pay off, with audiences and critics turning on the film upon its release due to the severe lack of masked boogeymen. And although in recent years the film has deservedly received a place in the Cult Film Hall of Fame, at the time it seemed that this would be the film to cap off the Halloween franchise, once and for all, throwing the series into a long 6-year hiatus. In 1988, 10 whole years after the release of the original Halloween, and 7 years after audiences had last been graced with the slasher of the silver screen, famed producer and grandfather of the Halloween franchise, Mustafa Akkad, felt that the time had come to bring the shape back from the dead, wanting to ensure that audiences knew who to be afraid of on a Halloween night. Canon, the folks behind such classics as Masters of the Universe, Superman 4, Cobra, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, aka the best one, had approached John Carpenter about returning for Halloween 4's production. Although at first Carpenter was hesitant to be involved, he caved and agreed to bring back Michael Myers for another film, hiring the late Dennis Etchison to write the script. Interestingly enough, Etchison had previous experience with the Halloween franchise, having written the novelizations for Halloweens 2 and 3 under the pseudonym Jack Martin. Initially, Carpenter, who had very little interest in directing Halloween 4, had approached Gremlins and Howling director Joe Dante to helm the film. However, Canon executives as well as Mustafa Akkad himself had little interest in Dante's involvement and little confidence in Etchison's screenplay, which he had conceived along with John Carpenter. It was at this point that, being fed up with the immense amount of creative differences, Carpenter and production partner Deborah Hill abandoned the production of the film, in addition to selling all the rights to the Halloween franchise to Mustafa Akkad. It was clear to the producers that a much more straightforward and faithful path would have to be taken to ensure the film's success, wanting to focus on the return to Haddonfield and the return of Michael Myers. After the departure of John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, it seemed things couldn't get any worse for the production. That was until it was discovered that franchise star Jamie Lee Curtis would not be returning to the franchise, at the time wanting to step away from the horror limelight after spending most of the early 80s acting in cheap horror flicks like Prom Night, Terror Train, and John Carpenter's own The Fog. Despite the heavy blow that was Curtis's departure, the producers would not be deterred, opting to kill off the character of Laurie Strode and shift focus onto the character's daughter. However, although the production could move ahead smoothly even with the absence of Curtis, everybody knew that no matter the cost, Sam Loomis actor Donald Pleasance would have to make a triumphant return to the franchise. Luckily, Pleasance had few qualms about returning to arguably his most iconic role, simply wanting to read a completed script before committing to the film. Devoted Halloween fan and Freddy's Nightmare director Dwight H. Little would be hired to helm the film and would also bring on future Spawn and Wrong Turn writer Alan B. McElroy to pen a new script. Together, Little and McElroy would crank out their initial script in nearly 11 days, just in time for what would be the industry's longest ever writer's strike. Unfortunately, Akkad was not 100% on board with McElroy's first draft, leading to weeks of redevelopment and rewrites in order to maintain and enhance Michael's superhuman qualities showcased in the original film. Wanting to be as frugal as possible with the film's $5 million budget, Akkad would bring on the help of producer Paul Freeman to help the film ensure a safe and efficient production. Freeman suggested bringing the shoot to Salt Lake City, Utah as opposed to Pasadena, California to give the film a more realistic, small, Midwestern town vibe. Salt Lake City would be swimming with potential cast and crew members that the production could scoop up for cheap, whereas Pasadena, due to its close proximity to Los Angeles, would be too expensive for the production. In my opinion, Salt Lake City makes for the best filming location the franchise has ever had, perfectly matching the small Midwestern setting and always being properly dressed for the Halloween season.
This applies to the entire film as well. Halloween 4 has always been my preferred entry in the franchise when it comes to looking for one that has more of a spooky Halloween-y tone. With all the decorations and trick-or-treaters, it gets a lot of things right. I'd actually argue that it has a stronger Halloween atmosphere than the original film, which is why I opted to talk about this film for my big Halloween return to YouTube. 10 years ago, he changed the face of Halloween, and tonight, he's back.
The film opens on October 30th, 1988, with one of the best Halloween intros. Halloween 1, 2, and 3 all had their rendition of the iconic pumpkin intro, but this film definitely does it differently, hitting us with this creepy and atmospheric opening with just enough pumpkins and decorations scattered around this barren farmland to remind you what season it is.
Even the score fits the opening so well, mixing in bits of the classic Halloween theme in with these haunting drones and gusty winds. God, what an excellent way to start the film. We then find ourselves following a couple of Smiths Grove staff members as they head to Ridgemont Federal Sanitarium, and you'll never believe what they're picking up.
Michael Myers is...
Lucky guess. The pair then meet up with Security Officer Jones, played memorably by the late Raymond O'Connor. He's one of the most unimportant characters in the film, yet O'Connor has such amazing line deliveries, it makes the character far more memorable than he should be.
Jesus ain't got nothing to do with this place. But his doctor, of all people, shot him 6 times. Welcome to hell.
And you'll find that's a trend with this film.
They're guided to the subterranean floors of the sanitarium, which must be where they keep all the coma patients. I mean, it makes sense, because if they don't wake up, that's where they're gonna end up anyways. This is where Michael Myers is kept. The old dog's been comfy cozy comatose in bed with a catheter up his pee hole for the last 10 years just rotting away. The staff members pack him up and pack him into an ambulance to transfer him back to Smiths Grove now that he's no longer considered a threat. All of this, of course, is backed by the classic Halloween theme. Despite the scene being as mundane as a near corpse being loaded into an ambulance can be, the classic theme weirdly fits, and the way it's shot gives you the idea that the moments that are to follow are a long time coming. While on the road, one of the staff members brings up Michael's young niece who lives in Haddonfield, and this pisses Michael the fuck off apparently, because he almost immediately wakes up from his 10-year coma just to bash this dude's brain in, and sticks his thumb through his forehead. Jesus Christ, this shape is ruthless. It's at this point that we are introduced to not only Jamie Lloyd, daughter of the now deceased Laurie Strode, but also her actress, for this was the first feature film starring upcoming actress Danielle Harris, who would not only go on to reprise the role of Jamie Lloyd for Halloween 5, but would also appear as Laurie's friend Annie Brackett in Rob Zombie's Halloween and Halloween 2. Jamie's joined on the couch by her adopted sister Rachel Carruthers, played by Ellie Cornell. Jamie has been having trouble sleeping the last few nights, and it stems from her anxiety that she has about being adopted, feeling as if she doesn't belong, and worrying that because she's adopted, her family doesn't love her. Rachel does her best to ensure Jamie that they all love her, setting in stone that the two characters have a strong familial bond. After staring at a production photo of Jamie Lee Curtis from the original Halloween, Jamie is viciously attacked by a hallucination of... Wait, holy shit, it's Tom Tucker from Family Guy!
Good evening, I'm Michael Myers.
Jamie apparently isn't a huge fan of Family Guy and promptly freaks the fuck out. Mrs. Carruthers, hearing her scream, slow motion runs into Jamie's room and holds her in her arms, promising her that Family Guy, sadly, is not real.
Just a nasty old dream. I've got you. You're safe.
The next morning comes and it's finally Halloween. The Carruthers gather for breakfast, and Rachel is told that she's gonna have to babysit for Jamie that night. Rachel gets pissy because she was supposed to hang out with her boyfriend.
Just be happy you don't have to work on Halloween.
I swear, it should be considered a workers' right violation to be made to work on Halloween. Rachel whines that her future relationship is ruined because of this, which upsets Jamie.
Sorry I ruined everything. I wasn't here. You can go out.
Oh.
Good job, Rachel.
After a fully balanced breakfast, we're finally reintroduced to a familiar bald head. It's none other than Sam Lumis, fried egg-faced and all. He's returned to Haddonfield, and he's downright pissed after not being told about Michael's transfer, insisting that transferring a mental patient on Halloween who's escaped captivity on Halloween once before is a bad idea. Who would have thought? But just as Dr. Hoffman is insisting that nothing could possibly go wrong, he gets a call.
Yes, Dr. Hoffman. I see, thank you. Apparently there was an accident just south of Mill Creek near the Lumis.
Loomis rushes to the crash site and insists that it was no accident. You and I know better, Loomis. When we see that much red stuff in the back of an ambulance, we know it can only mean one thing. An ambulance spaghetti party. And Loomis will be damned if somebody doesn't invite him to a spaghetti party. In the meantime, Michael makes a stop at the local mechanics garage to pick up some new threads.
Hey, Gar, how about a 9/16 socket over here?
Now, Mike, I'm no tool whiz, but I don't think that was a socket. Loomis decides to also stop at the auto repair place because, let's be honest, it's probably been months since his last oil change. Oh no, the mechanic's dead! Who's gonna change his oil now? Well, maybe someone in the connected diner that every auto repair place has. Well, shit. Loomis finally comes face to bandage with the shape after 10 years, and makes an odd attempt at reasoning with the beast before popping some shots off. Too bad Michael's part Enderman. While Loomis has a schizophrenic meltdown in the parking lot, Michael makes quite the exit, crashing through a garage door, blowing Loomis's car up, and wiping out the phone lines. Just ruthless. Back in Haddonfield, Jamie is being bullied by a bunch of kids because her uncle is a homicidal maniac.
Still better than your uncle being a sex offender. I wouldn't get too bent out of shape about it.
How come your mom didn't make you a costume, Jamie? How could you? Her mommy's dead.
Okay, that you can get bent out of shape about.
Jamie gets picked up by Rachel and her friend Lindsay, who I believe is intended to be a grown-up Lindsay Wallace from the original film. They take her to a local drugstore where Brady works to find her a Halloween costume. Jamie browses through a group of masks, which, despite being sold at a drugstore, look about 13 times better than most Spirit Halloween masks.
She eventually decides on a very stylish and not stupid-looking clown costume that did not cost $50.
While Jamie is busy getting dripped out, Rachel breaks it to her boyfriend Brady that she can't come over for Halloween, and he takes it really well. Wow, he must be a really great boyfriend. While testing the clown costume, Jamie hallucinates seeing... Wait, is that air fixed? Well, it's not Michael Myers because he's standing right behind you, Jamie. She screams in anger because it's been over a year since Airfix last uploaded. Rachel runs to her aid, unnecessarily knocking over this card display while Michael makes his getaway. After watching his car go splody-splody, Loomis attempts to hitch a ride with a group of kids, but quite literally gets left in the dust. Luckily, he manages to score a ride with the eccentric Reverend Jackson B. Sayre, played by Tim Burton regular, the late Carmen Felipe, who you may recognize as Roadkill from Beetlejuice, or as Hobo Jack from Pee-wee's Big Adventure, whereas he does in this film, singing his poor old heart out.
Yes, we'll gather at the river, the beautiful, beautiful river. Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. Jimmy crack corn and I don't care.
Reverend Jackson senses that just like him, Loomis is hunting evil, and tells the old man there's no true way to kill damnation.
You know, considering they both have the same name, I've had a theory that after the events of Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Hobo Jack managed to get back on his feet, nab himself a truck, get back into religion, and become a reverend. However, at some point he ended up getting run over by the ghost of Large Marge or something like that, and ended up in the afterlife where we see him in Beetlejuice. And the best part of it all, there's no evidence saying that isn't what happens.
We then get more of that gorgeous Halloween imagery from this movie that makes it so cozy. All the trick-or-treaters, the teepee-ridden trees, early evening lighting, it all comes together so well.
I think now would be the best time to tell you guys about this film's cinematographer.
Famed cinematographer Dean Cundey, before doing films like Garfield and Jack and Jill, was a frequent Carpenter collaborator, shooting a vast majority of his early films, including the first 3 Halloweens. Cundey was responsible for the film's incredible atmosphere, turning what could have been cheap, forgettable slashers into true works of art. Living up to the standard Cundey set with the first 3 films would be no easy task. However, Halloween 4's cinematographer Peter Loynes-Collister excellently matches Cundey's filming style while adding his own personal flair to shots, being a big fan of utilizing splashes of bright color in his shots, such as bright blues, reds, and oranges, making the film look really nice while also keeping the suspense of the scenes intact.
Fun fact, Collister would go on to be the director of photography on Garfield: A Tale of Two Kitties, once again receiving Cundey's sloppy seconds.
While Jamie and Rachel are out trick-or-treating, Lumis makes his way to Haddonfield Police Station in search of Sheriff Brackett. Unfortunately, he retired, which translates more or less to, we couldn't afford Charles Cyphers in this movie. I mean, the man was in Grizzly 2: The Revenge. He's an A-list name in Hollywood, and really hard to bag. Lumis meets the new Sheriff Meeker and warns him of Michael's presence and his goal of killing Jamie. Even though Lumis is seen as an absolute nut in this town, the sheriff still agrees to help the old man hunt for the shape. And off they go. Meanwhile, Rachel and Jamie have hit the streets, doing some more trick-or-treating. And while Jamie makes friends with the kids who are bullying her for having a dead mom, Rachel gets pissed when she finds her boo Brady fooling around with the sheriff's daughter Kelly.
Well, gee, so much for him being a good boyfriend. You think you know a guy. What could possibly make him do such a shitty thing? Was it the dope-ass shirt? Yeah, it was probably the dope-ass shirt.
While Brady tries to convince Rachel how dope Kelly's shirt is, she loses track of Jamie. At a nearby bar, a group of drunk patrons get concerned after seeing a news report about all businesses having to close early, and after the owner doesn't get an answer when he calls the sheriff's office, they all head out in search of answers and totally not to cause irreparable damage to their reputations. Lumis and Meeker make a stop at the empty Carruthers house, most likely without a warrant, in search of Jamie, but all they find is evidence of Michael's former presence, which includes an open door, a box that's been rooted through, a dead dog, you know, the usual stuff. Much like me, the pair hate seeing dead dogs and decide to split, taking their search back to the streets. Sadly, before Michael can be caught by proper authorities, he's caught trespassing at the local power plant by none other than Bucky, one of the pillars of Haddonfield's community, right up there with the late Ben Traynor and local thinking man Ted Hollister. Michael confronts Bucky, but the man stands his ground and faces the embodiment of evil head-on without fear, threatening to call the police if he doesn't leave peacefully. Michael, no! What have you done? Oh man, another legend gone too soon.
Poor Bucky. He's up there with the stars, along with Ben Traynor. Well, good thing we have good old Ted Hollister. Okay, listen. I have a confession to make. It may permanently damage my reputation among the horror community, but I've really got to get this off my chest. I like the Halloween 4 mask. I know. But in all fairness,
it is nowhere near the best mask in the series, but I think it matches the emotionless look of the original mask, and I kinda dig the slick back hair. It does look better in darker lighting as opposed to when it's brightly lit, but still it doesn't bother me as much, say, the Halloween 5 mask does. The mask for this film also had a complicated origin. Initially, makeup technician Ken Ward, who worked for Don Post Studios and was one of the people who created the Shatner mask used for the original Halloween's production, wanted to use another modified Shatner mask for Halloween 4. But the masks he was given to work with were all wrong, lacking Shatner's likeness and being colored pink and bleached blonde. Ward had to rush to paint all of the masks the correct white color and dye the hair brown for the production, leading to the masks in the film having an odd, bumpy texture. Ward would continually be asked to make changes to the mask throughout filming, and after he couldn't keep up with all of the bullshit requests, he would be fired from the production before quickly being rehired after a friend of Ward's, who just so happened to be a Fangoria magazine contributor, threatened to remove all promotion of Halloween 4 from upcoming issues. After Michael knocks out the power to the entire town, Rachel continues to aimlessly wander around looking for her missing sister. The two eventually find each other, and as soon as they do, Lumis and Meeker pull up to take them somewhere safe. But not too far away, Lumis spots a familiar face, and in one of the film's creepiest scenes, more Michaels start popping out from every which way, eventually surrounding the group. But as soon as Lumis whips out his piece, it's revealed to just be a bunch of dumbass kids.
You just know if this was the modern day, one of them would have been filming a shitty TikTok. Too bad one of them didn't get shot. Now that would have been a good TikTok.
But as it seems, one of the shapes wasn't a fake. Lumis and Meeker take a trip back to the police station only to find traces of yet another spaghetti party that Lumis wasn't invited to. This night just keeps getting worse. The drunken mob arrives and demands answers from the sheriff, but Meeker's no open book. Unlike Lumis, who will gladly throw Michael under the bus for throwing that spaghetti party.
It was Michael Myers. He's come home to kill.
Once the mob finds out Michael's on the loose, they hop back in their trucks and head out on a baby hunt, and don't think they don't know how to weed them out. The mob hits the streets, backed by an army march rendition of the Halloween theme, when they stumble across Michael Myers shitting in the bushes. And when the Hicks detect the slightest bit of movement, they open fire. But there's no possible way it was Michael, so it was probably just a squirrel or something. Hey Earl, who'd you shoot?
Shit, Earl. It's Ted Hollister.
What? No! It can't be! He was the final pillar of Haddonfield! You ignorant fools, you worthless bastards! I am preying on your downfall, you worthless sacks of shit!
After the tragic murder of what could have been America's next president, we cut to Barry and Kelly having sex.
Boring.
The Halloween gang shows up to take refuge at Meeker's place, and Rachel is just so excited about it. Really, just whoa. Meeker gives Brady a gun and sends the kids upstairs while he waits for Michael. The deputy who was shown earlier, accidentally giving Michael a free Uber ride, joins the crew at the house and stakes out in the living room in a creaky-ass rocking chair. Meeker tries using a radio to reach some form of backup and manages to bag the state police to take down Michael. Rachel calls out Kelly for sleeping with Brad and hits her with the hardest slut joke in all of the 7 Seas.
Besides, I've got a right to do what's best for me. Don't you mean what you do best?
After hearing about the heinous murder of Ted Hollister, Meeker opts to head out and stop the drunken fools, leaving the group in the care of the lone deputy. Kelly decides to do one nice thing in this movie and make some tea for Deputy Logan, but after lighting a candle she finds nothing more than the deputy's body. After the jig is up, Michael gets out of the chair and gives us one of the greatest kills in the entire franchise. It just goes to show, you can give a Michael a gun, but you can't stop his stabs. Kelly's death is also one of the film's strongest musical moments, featuring a somber rendition of the Myers house theme, which then transitions into a high-energy rendition of the classic Halloween theme when the deputy's body is revealed. Composer Alan Howarth, who assisted John Carpenter with the scores for Halloweens 2 and 3, would ride solo in this film after Carpenter's departure. Howarth was excited to make the score his own, and gave the film more of an atmospheric and synth-heavy sound, recomposing John Carpenter's famous tracks from the original film. The score is excellent and matches the eerie tone of the film and is perfectly emblematic of the type of sound common in Carpenter's films. Rachel, oblivious to Logan and Kelly's deaths, looks for the two only to discover Kelly's pinned up body. When she said she wanted to be pinned up against the wall tonight, this isn't what she meant. She runs upstairs to grab Jamie so that they can get the fuck out of there, but Jamie's nowhere to be seen. Brady grabs Rachel's and wastes both shells, blasting away the front door, only for it not to work. Listen kids, this is what happens when you play too much Rust. The two run back upstairs to Jamie and Michael shows up, and he's about to make a name for himself. You know how long he's been waiting for this? As Michael makes his way up the stairs, Brady takes his shot, completely forgetting that he already wasted his ammo, and he ends up paying for it too. After putting up an okay fight with Michael, he gives him one of those weird face hand hugs. You know the type. Rachel then attempts to get Michael off her tail in an innovative yet ineffective manner.
Leave us alone! God, leave us alone!
Yep, that'll do the trick.
Rachel and Jamie make their escape by climbing on the roof in one of the film's most suspenseful scenes. Rachel tries to carry Jamie across the roof on her back while Michael continues to chase them. Michael kinda pulls a baller move when he interrupts Rachel's attempt at lowering Jamie off the roof by cutting the rope and dropping Rachel down below. Jamie tries to get Rachel, but she's out cold, and Jamie is forced to run as Michael slowly pursues her. Much like fellow 80s slasher icon Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers would not have a single actor tied to the role. Rather, the actor would change in almost every film. In Halloween 4, Michael would at first be played by veteran stuntman Tom Morga, who played Michael in his bandage form during the beginning of the film. Morga is most well known for portraying Jason Voorhees and the Jason Voorhees copycat in Friday the 13th Part 5 A New Beginning from 1985. Although Morga would shoot a handful of scenes as Michael, he would later be replaced by actor and stuntman George P. Wilbur. Wilbur was handpicked by wanting someone with a large build and imposing stature to don the mask. Despite Wilbur kinda being an absolute beefcake, he was still forced to wear hockey pads beneath the coveralls, leading to the shape appearing weirdly stiff and top-heavy. Wilbur would actually be one of the few actors to reprise the role, returning as Michael Myers for parts of Halloween 5 and the producer's cut of Halloween 6. While Rachel is waking up from her little nap, Jamie is found by Lumis, who takes her to the safest place possible.
An American public school.
Because nothing bad ever happens there. For a minute it seems like the two are safe, but it turns out they aren't as safe as they think, because the vengeful spirit of Ben Tramer comes to kick some ass.
No, not really. In reality, this was the only mask on set for filming that day, so it was sort of a take what you can get moment.
After Michael roughs up Lumis, he resumes his pursuit of Jamie, and right as Michael is about to strike, Rachel comes back and blows Michael away with a fire extinguisher. In reality, this was probably an attempt on Rachel's part to repaint Michael's mask. Good effort! effort. The nearby terrorist hellbillies hear the commotion at the school and quickly show up to take Rachel and Jamie to safety.
But everyone seems to forget they're in a Halloween film. There is no such place as safe.
While the cops make their way back to Haddonfield, it's revealed Michael pulled a Cape Fear and stowed away under the hillbilly's truck. Michael effortlessly wipes out 3 armed men, apparently silently like he's in a Metal Gear Solid game, because nobody in the front seems to notice the carnage. Just to add insult to injury, Michael bursts through the car window and peels the trucker's neck meat off like a fruit by the foot. God damn! Rachel's had enough of this boogeyman bullshit and opts to throw the dead trucker out of the car and swerve like a maniac until Michael is thrown off the roof. And as if she couldn't be any cooler, Rachel puts the pedal to the fucking metal and rams it into shape at full speed.
Jamie runs up to Michael's probably not dead body and holds his hand, seemingly to form a connection with her murderous uncle, which I assure you, future writers would have a fucking field day with.
Right as Michael gets up to finish the job, however, the cops show up and blow the bastard away with, I shit you not, like 40 shots. I lost count after a while. And all this does is cause him to clumsily fall back into a conveniently placed well. After what was very likely the most traumatizing day in any of these people's lives, everybody makes their way back to the Carruthers house to unwind. It's been a bit of a rough night. Give everybody a round of shots, they could really use it. While Mrs. Carruthers runs a bath for Jamie, probably to clean off all that uncle blood, a masked figure grabs a pair of scissors and enters the bathroom. Lumis rushes to the stairs when he hears screams, only to come face to face with one of the greatest endings in the franchise. As Lumis screams in horror, he whips out his gun to shoot the child without hesitation after witnessing the rebirth of evil and the undying nature of damnation.
This is how the film ends, signifying the Ouroboros of the Halloween franchise, beginning with a young Michael Myers murdering his sister and ending with a young Jamie Lloyd murdering her mother, truly setting in stone the undying cycle that is evil. This ending would also open up so many possibilities for future sequel ideas.
With Michael dead, it would have been very interesting to see a child or grown-up Jamie following in her uncle's footsteps. Sadly, none of this would ever happen. Initially, the script for Halloween 5 featured Jamie returning as the lead killer, but the idea was axed early in production by Mustafa Akkad, as he preferred Michael just return as the killer, in addition to having it to where Jamie didn't kill her foster mother, instead she just poked her a little bit. She'll walk it off.
Halloween 4: The Return of Michael Myers is truly an excellent entry in the series, marking as one of the highest points in the entire franchise.
It features a solid script, high-quality performances, gorgeous cinematography and directing, and an amazing score. It did exactly what it was supposed to do: bring the shape back and bring him back in style while keeping the aura of the original film intact. It's a great example of how to do a slasher sequel correctly, and was released in an era where general audiences were tired of the frequent slashers and slasher sequels.
You've got to remember, this was 1988, the same year Friday the 13th Part 7 and A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4 came out. People were kind of getting tired of this whole shtick.
The film is not without its minor faults, like its relatively slow-paced action and odd costuming choices, yet Halloween 4 is a great film and stands as one of the best Halloween holiday films of all time alongside the original. I give the film 4.5 jack-o'-lanterns out of 5.
Howdy, thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. I know it's been really quiet around here for like a year, but I wanted to thank you guys for sticking around and still watching my content. I'm really sorry for being gone for so long, and I promise to upload more frequently. I've just been really busy with life stuff. What's your opinions on Halloween 4? Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Are you indifferent? Tell me in the comments below. This video took a really long time to make, and I was kind of under a time crunch, so I'm glad it came out the way it did. Thank you everyone, and have a happy and safe Halloween. See you next time.